They say that in war, everything is allowed, even betrayal. How should we interpret then the rumor that has been spread by NBC? It talks about the imminent deployment of U.S. troops to fight in Ukraine, which could trigger a new phase of conflict. This is not just a simple deployment of military reinforcements, but a strategic shift with profound geopolitical implications. Driven by its own interests in Ukraine's mineral resources, the U.S. is prepared to intervene directly. And what happened with Trump's call to Putin? Was it just a setup to distract the Kremlin? Or is this NBC report of fake news? Trump betraying Putin? There's talk of an imminent deployment of U.S. troops to Ukraine. Global tensions have reached a new level, marked by a series of statements and information leaks indicating a possible radical shift in the United States' stance on the conflict in Ukraine. In the horizon of this international confrontation, the question arises, is the U.S. government really willing to get directly involved in protecting Ukrainian resources, even if it means a military confrontation with Russia? At least, this is what the U.S. television network known as NBC suggests. Since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, the old Biden administration showed constant support for the government in Kyiv, providing weapons, funds, and training to Ukrainian forces. However, under Trump, a shift was discussed. Nevertheless, the recent leak of information about Washington's interest in controlling and especially counteracting Ukraine's mineral resources has plunged many into a new uncertainty. According to NBC reports, Washington is considering sending troops to Ukraine to protect and secure key mineral deposits, including titanium, zirconium, and rare metals, even though the Russians are in the war zone. There is likely to be a clash of combatants, warns the U.S. outlet. These resources, distributed across various strategic regions of Ukraine, such as Zhytomyr, Vinnytsia, and Kharkiv, have acquired significant geopolitical importance, as they are essential not only for Ukraine's industry, but also for the global interests of great powers. The information about a possible U.S. intervention in Ukraine not only suggests a new phase in the war, but also highlights the economic interests that could be behind the prolongation of the conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly rejected U.S. proposals, arguing that the conditions raised did not take Ukraine's national interests into account. However, circles close to Trump's administration seem to have a different approach, as the security of these strategic resources could be a determining factor in U.S. foreign policy. The prospect of a direct confrontation between U.S. and Russian armies is, of course, chilling. Although both countries are in direct conflict through their respective support for combatants in Ukraine, sending U.S. troops to secure these resources could be the trigger for an open conflict. The decades-long tensions between Moscow and Washington could quickly escalate if the Pentagon decides to intervene more directly. The weaponry that both nations possess, including Russian hypersonic missiles and advanced U.S. artillery, makes this scenario a terrifying possibility that could turn the war in Ukraine into a global battleground. Meanwhile, the political climate within Russia remains tense but resolute. President Vladimir Putin has maintained a firm stance against foreign aggression, considering Russia's interests in Ukraine essential for its national security and influence in the region. In this context, the U.S. proposal to intervene to secure Ukrainian resources could be seen in Moscow as a direct threat to Russian sovereignty and interests. This situation is further complicated by the recent resumption of negotiations between Russia and the U.S. in Riyadh, which, according to diplomatic sources, focus not only on the Ukrainian conflict, but also on normalizing broader relations between the two powers. However, the differences between Moscow and Washington over Ukraine's future remain deep and difficult to overcome. It is interesting and necessary to note that, although Ukraine has not been officially invited to these talks, its future seems to be decided at negotiation tables, to which it has no direct access. In fact, it is expected that the U.S. will take the lead in the discussions, with key figures such as Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Trump's National Security Advisor Mike Pompeo involved. The fact that the Ukrainian issue is being handled so distantly for Kiev could generate a greater sense of distrust among Ukrainian leaders and their Western allies. From a military point of view, Russian forces continue to take control of strategic areas within Ukraine. Russian troops have made significant progress in areas rich in natural resources, which, according to international analysts, could be one of the main drivers behind the war. Rare earth minerals essential for high-tech manufacturing and weaponry have gained even greater relevance in this context. The claim that Russian forces already control large deposits of these resources underscores the strategic objectives behind the conflict. Reports about the U.S. intentions to send troops to Ukraine to protect these resources have been met with great skepticism in Russia. Kremlin officials have pointed out that any attempt at U.S. intervention could be interpreted as a direct violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and, by extension, of Russia's. In this sense, the history of foreign interventions in the region, from the Orange Revolution to the annexation of Crimea, shows Moscow's sensitivity to external threats. In fact, in the words of Sergei Lavrov, the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Western powers have never respected Russia's national interests, and any attempt to get involved in Ukraine could be seen as a step closer to direct confrontation. At the same time, internal tensions in Ukraine also play a crucial role in the dynamics of the conflict. Zelensky's rejection of Washington's proposals and the growing feeling that Ukraine is being used as a pawn in an international power game could deepen divisions within Ukrainian society. Ultimately, the key to understanding this conflict lies in the geopolitical and economic interests that drive the decisions of each of the actors involved. For Russia, Ukraine is not just a neighbor, but a key piece in its defense strategy and the expansion of its influence in Europe. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more exclusive content. Share this video with your friends and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay updated on all our latest uploads, make sure to activate the notification bell. Join our community and be part of the conversation today.